You also said George Washington was viewed from his slaves like a father. I guess that's part of
Mm.
the what the myth, I guess, is that not all slave owners were evil. Some were father figures like George Washington.
There are certain facts that we're not allowed to talk about.
Like what? I would love to. We're doing the taboos.
No,
We're
no,
mixing it
I
up. It's
just
red pill, baby.
Hey, yo, shout out to Ethan on this one. This one's funny.
Let's
Oh,
say
actually, I think we should ban divorce too. Yeah, I think that should be banned. I would say ban divorce.
Partners, I want you guys to think about what you're advocating. You see your parents, one of your parents should stay getting beat by the other every day, and you should witness your parents get their ass beat because they chose to marry the wrong.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ty with another episode of Contentious Conversations. And today, as you guys can see, we're talking about just pearly things. The guys on Ab and Preach, they're back at it again, back at each other. And the guys on Ab and Preach are talking about a recent appearance of Pearly Things or Just Pearly Things on the H3H3 podcast. I think that's what his name is. Ethan Klein. I'm just getting familiar with all the YouTubers and all the red tubers and all the blue tubers and all the tubers and everybody. I'm trying to get, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get everybody understood because there's a lot of people. There's a lot of factions in this, in this thing. So let's dive into what we've got for you guys.
So let me just ask you generally, like, what kind of messages are you sharing on your platform? What kind of important messages is it that you find yourself are about?
I believe in family, so I think that we should have policies that push family. I think that feminism overall was a bad thing. I think women are happier when we have, a family and kids over a career in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
It's okay. Yeah, I understand.
You should be. You should be. Soft-spoken Ethan starting off. Well, tell us about your views. As if he doesn't have a full-page document going, dumb bitch, dumb bitch, dumb bitch, dumb bitch, dumb bitch. Page number 2, dumb bitch. And to be honest, you could write a whole book about how much of a dumb, but anyways.
This motherfucker gonna obliterate you.
Yeah. Well, if there's anything that, because I've seen them and H3H3 go back and forth. And one thing you can notice is a lot of these guys, because like this is their job, like all they do is research on you. Like they'll find out anything they can about you. They'll watch they'll go back in your archives and tell all their fans to find them whatever clips that like this is the level of the internet today is where anything you've ever done, no matter what it is, your views, if it's been posted somewhere, there's a chance that it can be unearthed. So this is an interesting beef. I want to see where this goes. Go.
You're easily obliterable.
So it's more like, traditional. You want people to kind of follow a more traditional path in terms of family and gender and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, and you just see the negative outcomes a society has when like families fall apart, right? And it's especially hard on the children. Like you see, the kids are more likely to go to.
Listen, I know Rihanna said diamonds shine bright, but this forehead is glistening. And as a fellow Ethiopian, I just want to say, Pearl, you might be white, but that forehead's one of mine. You feel me? It's just nice to see it on the big screen.
So how do you push a policy that promotes family? Like, in what way can you force a family to stay together or encourage it in a sense?
Well, I think you first have to get rid of incentives that incentivize like women to leave families. So, for example, child support, alimony. I'm not really a fan of those.
Okay.
90% of divorces don't involve alimony. Okay, there's no alimony for like 90% of people.
Yeah.
That is for selection.
That's for people who got
Just get that out of
money
the way.
and who got
Oh,
something
actually, I
to
think we
split.
should ban divorce too. Yeah, I think that should be banned.
Why join an award-winning
Okay,
platform
what?
to invest?
Like, you know, for example, child support, alimony. I'm not really a fan of those.
Okay.
90% of divorces don't involve
Yeah,
alimony.
that's
Okay, there's no alimony for like 90%.
like I said
of people.
before. That's
That is for
for
select
people
few.
who got
So
money.
Just get that out of the way.
Let's
Oh,
say
actually, I think we should ban divorce too. Yeah, I think that should
This
be
is the
banned.
one that's kind
I
of
would say ban
that's
divorce.
crazy.
so banning divorce means that when you decide to get married, you are not allowed by the government to leave your significant other in any situation.
Hmm. Yeah, I just think that if you want to leave, you just shouldn't get married.
If you're saying you're not allowed to get divorced, so we're talking about like what if the relationship is physically abusive?
Yeah, that sounds crazy. Like the problem is some
I
of like you can't. It just that sounds crazy. Like in a relationship where somebody's beating on you, trying to kill you, if you didn't know that before you went in, bro, I should have the right to get out. Like I'm not finna do that. Right? Like that's the weird thing. It's like if somebody's physically abusive to you, mentally abusive to you, right? Emotionally abusive to you, constantly, is essentially draining your life energy, your soul. I'm sorry, y'all. You should be able to find your peace. Like it's just that doesn't jive with me, you know. And you know, maybe divorce is a little easy, but I don't know if it should be any harder. Because some of these people stay in the relationships too long, and then it ends up killing them.
If it's physically, see, this is the problem though. All right, if it's one-sided physically abusive, okay, fine, divorce. We can allow divorce for those exceptions, but
Okay.
like I've even talked to people that work at like abuse centers, and they say that the majority of abuse is mutual. So it's not just one side's hitting the other; it's like mutual. So
Surely
I
that's
just
not
think the
every
goal,
time.
I think.
Who cares?
Why is
Wait,
that?
okay, so even if it is mutual, if we boxing every day, like wait a minute. So if we in the house, we can't get along, and we boxing each other, even if it's a fair fight, and we going toe to toe, that is such a toxic environment to live in. Imagine if you had kids in that situation, right? Like you want your kids to see stuff like that. Like that's a ridiculous position to hold. Like that's just a ridiculous position to think, oh yeah, that just makes sense. Like that means you have literally given no actual thought into the position that you're claiming to take.
If it's mutual, both of you should be trying to get a divorce.
You shouldn't be together.
What, you think like, well, listen, yeah, you know, if it's one sided, get it.
Yeah.
But if it's mutual, figure it out.
No.
No. If you guys are beating on each other, you might need to just actually.
Yo, it's over.
Do you think it's a good idea to raise a kid in an environment where parents beat on each other regularly and violence is their first instinct? Why is this even like a rebuttal?
And the thing that in trauma centers they say that it's mutual. They don't exactly say that it's mutual. There's a nuance there, but
What's the nuance?
the nuance is that actually the person that is getting beaten up, the victim, let's just say, actually has some patterns of violence as well. It doesn't mean that she's the person that is most physical or he's the person that is most physical.
Well, in some situations, I'm not gonna even try to justify or do anything about that statement in the sense that, come on, it speaks for itself. Like it's not a point to try to refute the fact that people who are violent towards each other constantly and can't get along should somehow live in the same house and stay in that situation. You're like, it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. Right. But I just don't, some of these people, they're like, the views just don't make it. It doesn't align. Like it just doesn't align to reality, right? The real world. Like all of the stuff she says sounds nice. It sounds good in like some ideal world, but we don't live in that. The world we live in, yo, people are violent and then they kill women and they kill their spouse, right? Like a lot of the time, sometimes I'm not gonna say a lot of the times, I don't know the statistics on that, but from my anecdotal evidence, which I know is, you know, here it's not the best, but the anecdotal evidence says that when there's a pattern of abuse on either side, usually, it's if it continues to escalate, then it's going to escalate to a point of deadly violence, right? Or when somebody grabs a gun, grabs a knife, does something to end the other person's life. And you don't, that's not a world you want to live in, where you can't allow people to leave these horrible situations that put their lives in jeopardy, right? That can't be a position that you wholeheartedly support. I refuse to believe that these people actually believe these things and they're just doing it to get views and clicks for the camera. That's my 100% personal belief, is that she knows what she's saying sounds ridiculous, but she has to say it because that's what her community wants to hear her say. My community doesn't care what I say. My community is like, I mean, they're gonna talk shit about me regardless. So like, my communities, they're just here to get the news. My opinion is kind of like, he's talking, you know. So I think it's interesting though, that the red pill still have to embrace some of these doctrines, right?
Ever, but they do engage in that. It's not equal, but they do engage in that. That's just a nuance. But
family violence was the cause of 25% of divorces. So I don't think it's fair to characterize that as some kind of like super fringe example of why people get divorced.
Well, but you also have to look if there's incentive structures in place where there's a lot of false accusations in family court. And a lot of people don't know this, that family court is actually based off, it's not based off of evidence, it's based off a balance of probabilities.
Family court is not based off evidence, it's based off balance of probability. What do you think balance of probability is based off of?
Evidence. It's like, it's essentially like, we're going to look at all the evidence, and the most probable owner of this item is this person. So they're going to use all the evidence. If you got receipts, if you got like pictures with it all the time, like there's a lot of things that they'll use to determine those things. So I think that these are facetious arguments at best.
Is the burden of proof lower in family court? Sure. Doesn't mean that you don't need evidence. You can't just come in and say, oh, he beats me, and have no evidence. You have to document stuff. You have to go to the police. You have to have reports. You have to have medical documentation. You can't just go to court and say something happened, and then all of a sudden the courts believe you. That's not the way it works. They're going to need phone records, text messages,
they need
emails.
something.
Why do you think when people go through divorces, they make such an effort to keep records of conversations, of dates, affidavits, witness testimony? Why? Because the balance of probability is based off of that evidence.
You have to show them.
She just doesn't know what she's talking about. She's saying things that she's read online, but she doesn't even know the words she's using.
And divorce, except for one-sided abuse.
Okay,
sure.
Except for one-sided abuse. And is there going to be a system to kind of how do you prove that the woman or man?
Well,
was
I
on the,
think
yeah,
I think you have to press charges in criminal court, not family court.
So only if your significant other is tried criminally are you allowed to leave the relationship. Yes. Tried and found guilty criminally.
Yes.
Wow.
You know, it's so funny.
It's sometimes it's when you hear somebody say it out loud, you're just like, there's no way you believe the things you just said. Like, the thing is, when you're stuck to such ridiculous positions, and when you're stuck to having to take such, like, when you can't have free will, right? Like, the problem, I think, with the red pill community, what they've turned into nattering yes men, right? They all have like this doctrine that they all have to follow. They all have to do the same thing. And, you know, they're all stuck in that one lane. And if they go outside of what they buck the orthodoxy, right, so to speak, then the community is going to revolt against them. And I think they call it being audience captured, right? And the guys on App and Preach, they don't really like, they're kind of more like more free about their opinions, so they don't feel very audience captured. They kind of go whichever way, you know, like they give their honest opinions. Whenever I listen to Pearl talk, it doesn't feel like she's giving her honest opinions. It feels like she's saying what she's supposed to say, if that makes any sense, right? Like, you can tell when somebody's like, okay, this is what we're supposed to believe, is that this is the way it's done. And I'm going to spout it off. This is what family values mean. And it's like, no, dude, like you can't even, there's no way you can. Yeah, divorce is bad. Like everybody understands that two people who got together, created a family, and separated is not a good thing. It's not a good outcome for the kid a lot of the times. But you know what's a worse outcome? If the kid is introduced to violence, emotional abuse, mental abuse, lack of, everything, right? Like it's that's way more detrimental than if they just split up and did what they had to do, became better human beings, right, on their own, willing and capable of taking care of the person and child that they created, right? Those are way more important than trying to work it out for some random family values nonsense, right? Like if we don't, there's some people who don't like, they just don't mix. Like there's just personalities on this planet that will never ever mix. Like they might be cool for a while, but their personality just does not jive. You see things A, I see things B. The sky is blue to you, it's purple to me. I don't like, there are people that are just like that, and you should not be forced to live with them. Like you should not be forced to be like, oh, well, you made the choice. That's it. You're done. Now you got to beat on each other. It's 12 rounds every day till you die. Like what? No, 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 no.
Funny is like,
Yeah, it's a ridiculous position to take.
and they got to go through a lengthy court case that lasts years before they can finally get divorced from their partners. During that whole period, they have access to all kinds of things when it comes to each other. Just know.
It comes down to the fact that she hasn't experienced much, which is fine, but she thinks she knows a lot. So she goes, yeah, just do that. Just do that. Like it's a
That's not.
thing. Sure. Like it's a
Life isn't like
thing.
like
It's not a just
like I
do
said,
that thing.
fantasy
Oh,
versus
yeah,
reality.
Go to court and do this and that. Like if it was nothing. She all the time that she opens her mouth, it's always like, yeah, well, it's really simple. But she hasn't looked into it, or she just plainly doesn't know, and she keeps on saying stuff like that.
And here's the thing. She's basically telling people you get your ass beat, which I think like 20 to 25% of all marriage divorces are actually citing reasons of abusing them. So yeah, when she says this stuff, she's basically handcuffing people to dynamics in which if they don't take the father of their kids or the mother of their kids to court and send them to jail, they cannot leave. Do you know how many people are going to have to stay in relationships because of that? Do you know how conflicting it must be to marry somebody, to be in love with them, to find out they beat you every day? And now you got to go through the process of sending them to jail, fucking up your kid's life, fucking up your own life, going through the trauma of having to take someone to court and testify and sit in. That's a lot.
Yeah, like I said, she just says things and she doesn't really like think about the other. Like they don't think through the logical, like a logical thinking through of their positions, right? Like, well, then there's going to be a lot of abuse victims that have to stay in horrible situations. You're okay with that in your universe, in this dimension that you're creating, where families are somehow perfect by staying together. You realize that there are violent human beings who are going to be violent to other human beings, and those people, those are victims, are then forced to stay in those situations, right? Like you understand that that's what your policy, whatever this thing that you're advocating for, is going to ultimately, bring about. And if you're okay with that, well, then I don't know about you.
But you don't think about all those minute details when you're going through this process. Sometimes it's just better for the two people to just go their separate ways. Not everybody wants to go through the process of pressing charges and go through the whole thing.
And when you say that, their out is, yeah, well, then you should have married the person in the first place. Like, there's no talking to these people.
No.
There's no logic talking with these people.
They don't understand that people change over time. Like, not everybody goes into a marriage as things are fine, then things don't change afterwards. Like, people change. And just because that thing comes out later, you didn't see the foresight, doesn't mean you should be locked into a relationship where you get beat by your parents. I want you guys to think about what you're advocating. You see your parents, one of your parents should stay getting beat by the other every day, and you should witness your parents get their ass beat because they chose to marry the wrong person. That's what y'all really saying.
That makes no sense.
Y'all willing to let your moms or your dads get beat up by their partner, show up abused, and potentially even die one day, because a lot of this stuff does lead to death, right? Because they chose the wrong person. If you guys really can look at your parents and say they should stay through that kind of situation, kudos to you. I could never. I would tell my mom to get 100 divorces before she even took one single one. Y'all would condemn somebody
for real. Like, I would, hey, you better get out as soon as you can. Like, that's the, like, it's, self-preservation is a real thing, right? And sometimes you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people. That's the truth about life, right? On the plane, they tell you, before you help anybody else, with their oxygen mask, even if it's your kid, help yourself. Because if you try to spend time, you done passed out. Now the person who needs help, who can't do it for themselves, will then pass as well, right? So sometimes it's more advantageous. It's better for you, your family, save yourself, come back and save everybody else. That's just the reality, right? Like, we can pretend like, oh no, that's the reality. And for people who the red pill are supposed to be about being realistic, right? That's not a very realistic view of that kind of situation, right? So I think this is just a weird way for a weird view.
Yeah. So Thomas Sowell's an author who talks about the history of slavery. So.
Thomas Sowell. Oh, so
Okay.
Hey,
she can work through
the
it.
only people who I know would say this kind of goofy shit are dudes who probably have the plans of beating their partners, to be honest with you.
Or people that haven't
like MLD, who be beating
Oh
women.
my
That's
God.
the only
I don't
people
know
say,
who that
or
is.
goofy women who want to make money off goofy red pill people.
But I was quoting a Thomas Sowell book.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
Who's that?
Yeah. So Thomas Sowell's an author who talks about the history of slavery.
So it's this black guy that I've seen on YouTube a couple times, and he's like, the guy sounds very intelligent, but he ultimately comes back to like, black people are the problem. I think is what like his stuff boils down to. It's like, what culture is black culture? I don't, like, come on, bro. He's one of those like sounds. He makes it sound intellectual so he can shit on black people. Is what it feels like. That's just my very tertiary, very surface analysis of Thomas Sowell and his ideology and philosophy. So obviously you're gonna, I'm not gonna say go read it for himself, because I don't advocate a lot of the stuff a lot of his views, but yeah, it's an interesting thing that she would bring up. It makes sense for her to know who he is.
So.
Thomas Sowell. Oh, so
A black man who
so
disparages other black
premise
people.
that slavery was embellished, or no?
I think that there are parts that are under embellished and there are parts that are over embellished.
So I wonder what parts she thinks are under embellished and the parts that she thinks are over embellished, right? So this is
depends what we're
That's
talking
so
about.
interesting. I've got to know what was over embellished about slavery.
literally in my mind, I'm like, so what part of it were we like, were we like, the lash is too hard? Like, what did we do to over embellish that? What have we under embellished, and what have we over? Like, she is such a ridiculous person. Like, she's such a ridiculous human being, right? And it's funny that, like, it's so easy to dunk on her that I think at some point you just have to kind of feel bad that, like, yo, you're saying these things out loud in public and people are gonna hear you.
No!
It's a trap. It's a trap. Don't take the bait, but do not take it. Do not take it. Don't take the bait.
at you.
Yeah.
You know, this not like this is like Ethan was like, I know what white people can't say. Now say it. You've activated my trap card. You see how excited he is? Tell me what you don't like about blacks.
It's bro. He set her ass
Just
up,
like
but
one example. I was dying to know.
he's so smug. He's such a smug.
Yeah, I just rather. I mean, I was talking about a book that I read.
Nah.
Understand the
You see, look. She's trying to hedge because she knows what she wants to say. She is. Sometimes.
context. You'd have to read the book.
But you just said some parts were embellished, some parts were embellished.
I just again.
Are you retracting that?
I'd really just rather not.
Okay.
He knows what he's doing.
Black. I guarantee somebody in black in the studio like, what? And say it. Say what you was gonna say. Say what you was gonna say. What did black people embellish about slavery? You can tell somebody in there like, yo, hey, yeah, what you gonna say?
Hey, he said cross it, bitch. Why you stuttering? He said it's over embellished. Go ahead.
What part?
Cross it.
These niggas in these commercials though.
Things we are willing to do.
Yo, shout out to Ethan.
Yo, this was Ethan. Masterful.
Taboo topics.
I genuinely want to know how.
Look at the way he leans in. I genuinely want to know.
What can't we talk about?
What are we missing?
I mean, I could show you.
Come on, cancel yourself. Come on, do
I'd
it.
rather not get into this. So
Sounds like a blue pilled attitude to me.
The babe.
This motherfucker baiting.
Beta girl.
yeah, I just again. I
He
was
throwing some
hoping
bait
for,
out
like,
there.
A good faith interview.
Wait,
What's a good?
I'm
What's?
literally showing you clips of you saying stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. What about this interview has been bad faith?
I just think you're kind of trying to push an agenda, and you're not. Yeah, I just think you're trying
But
to push.
that's a clip of you saying that.
Because I was talking about how the founder of the Thomas Sowell talks about how the guy that made Roots talked about how it was a myth for his people to live by.
Okay.
That's what the guy who made Roots said, Alex Haley.
Okay.
So, and I can't even talk about that on a podcast without being canceled by the internet.
Yeah, but mythology.
Okay.
Okay, wait. Okay, wait. Before either of these motherfuckers go, what? Okay. So, because he said it's this one human being made one movie and said it was a mythology for his people. You think Roots is black people's only access to information about slavery? Like, I honestly don't understand what Roots, like what her watching Roots and knowing that the person who wrote Roots said that he wrote it as like, was that nigga there? Like, was he like, I'm so baffled by what she thinks that like she's being like edgy, or she thinks she has information black people don't know, or don't want to learn, or don't want to find out. Like, what does she think she's doing? Like, what honestly does she think she's like? This is crazy.
The things depicted in there didn't happen. That doesn't mean that was embellished. Okay. The reality of slavery was far darker.
Bro,
than the
like
Roots.
Root. I don't think she understands the brutality, right? Like, you think Roots can show you what really happened, right? How they were doing testing on black people, how they were chaining them, cutting off their feet, cutting off their hands, right? Maiming them, raping them, right? Like just the you know, there are things that some people just, she knows she's wrong, but she's so uneducated and ignorant to those situations and those facts that I don't know. She thinks she reads one book about with one author, and all of a sudden she has all the hidden secrets, right? She reads one book, and one black guy says, the guy who wrote Roots wrote it as a mythology. So, like, okay, well, cool, good for him. Like, I'm so baffled as to how that's like.
That's just a fact.
Just because mythology is like a culture,
Right, but
a
I'm
history.
saying that doesn't mean the way it's depicted in the movie was how it actually happened. And that's what he was talking about on the book. But again,
So-
I was quoting a book, and you're trying to like pin me down on quoting a book.
Why are you quoting a book?
See if I'm doing that.
Stuff too, because that's literally the founder of, or the guy who made Roots said,
What'd
I
you
wanted
say?
a myth for my people to live by.
Yeah.
So they often, but that's what they do is they
So
embellish.
then you say, but here's what they do.
And I'm not trying to say it wasn't horrible.
I'm not trying to say it wasn't horrible.
Right, but they want to make it like more horrible.
But they want to make it more horrible.
That they can control people.
So that they can control people.
Right, but
Nick
5
Fuentes
minutes,
agrees,
but
by the
wait,
This motherfucker knows what he's.
I mean, she brought him on. She got to eat that. Let's keep watching.
wait, oh my gosh. 5 minutes before I say Sowell talks about this in his book. So I'm communicating in the interview that I'm
No. What you do, see, like, she's being disingenuous, right? What she does is she first quotes the book and then gives her opinion of the quote on the book, right? That's what she does. She doesn't just quote the book. So for her to act like, oh, I just quoted the book verbatim as like some, like some sourcing, thing that I did at the bottom of my essay back in, college or something. It's, oh, no, it's just like my sources at the bottom. That's all no, you gave a quote or a factoid from this author, a book that you read, and then you literally give your opinion right after. That's a little different.
You say they do this to.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just disavow it then. That's easy. Just say, I don't think slavery was embellished. I mean, that's super easy. That's like a layup. Do you agree? You know what I mean? It's like, just say you don't think slavery was embellished.
I think there are certain facts that you're not allowed to talk about. I don't really want to talk about it.
Oh, I'm just asking you, do you agree with that statement? Barack Obama is comparable to Adolf Hitler.
No.
Okay.
I say like a question.
It's not hard. That's awesome. That's easy to do.
T for the class. T for the class.
Yo, he's trolling him.
He's clapping her right
He's
now.
trolling him.
You
He's
also said
trolling
George
him.
Washington was viewed from his slaves like a father. I guess that's part of what the what the myth, I guess, is that not all slave owners were evil. Some were father figures like George Washington.
Yo, this editing is crazy.
Whoever edited it is an asshole. Why'd he focus on her
I
forehead?
just have to think, Pearl's got to be one of the dumbest fucking people on the planet. To go on the H3 podcast and think this shit was not going to come up.
Did you say that?
I don't remember.
I'll pull
I
it
think
up.
like if someone's a great and powerful man in history to the point like they're talking about him hundreds of years later, he didn't have any kids, but
Did he own slaves?
what?
Did he own slaves? George Washington.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, no romance to me. I'm just saying.
No, it's actually interesting. He had a different, like he inherited his slaves, and it wasn't as simple as he could have just like let them go because
Oh.
the
Guys, you know what? Pearl solved. You know what happened? The founding father, he inherited his slaves. Somebody was like, you know what? Here's some slaves for you. Didn't need them anymore. My farm's done tilling. I'm just, here you go, son. Here's a full bushel of slaves for you. I know you can't release them back into the wild because where would they go? They're not really free to do what they want to do in this country. So just keep them on your property and let them do, let them be like a father to them, teach them how to ride a bike and, go take them on walks and things and teach them their ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s and things like that, son. That's what I want you to do for my slaves, since you can't let them go. I want you to be like a father figure to them. I want you to give them the bottle and treat them like you would your own. Bro, what is... Ooh, they must be getting good fentanyl in whatever part of the world she's in. She's in London or something, but man, this is craziness.
Debt that's incurred on them, like you can't just release them. And so his slaves actually, like, he had a really good relationship with them.
Did he?
Him like
Did he now? Did he?
What's your source for that?
That was from a Thomas Sowell book.
Like I said, she read one book about Thomas Sowell, right? Which is this one, it's the black guy who, because he says, it's black people's fault, white people love him. Like that's Thomas Sowell, essentially. It's like slavery was black people's fault. He kind of talks like that. You ever heard Thomas Sowell talk? But like, it's copium for white people, essentially.
Thomas Sowell. So he's your guy. Thomas Sowell's the man.
There was a time where I started to read accounts from actual slaves. So these were like in like and I can't really talk about this. Like, even if I talk about this now, they're gonna clip it. They're gonna say things I didn't say. But
no, wait,
like,
okay.
I used
wait. Are people saying what you didn't say, or are you saying things and then trying to backpedal from them? Right? We're literally just watching what you say and then asking you, do you really believe in this thing that you just said? Nobody put the camera in your face and said, put a gun to your head and said, all right, say these stupid things.
Read actual slave accounts, and I was surprised how many didn't say bad things about their owners after they were free.
I'm so there's some people that like you cannot, like, I'm sorry that you guys have to watch this. I'm watching it so you then can rewatch it, but man, this is mind numbing. Like, there's no way any human being could say some of the things that she says, believes those things. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. None of the stuff she says makes any sense. Like, this face says it all.
Play the thing.
Just like, just come on, bro. Like,
you guys never heard of Stockholm syndrome?
Play the thing.
People who
I'm not even gonna address it.
Slavery was a horrible institution, but I can't talk about that fact without getting canceled. I can't say, hey, these slaves had a good relationship with their owners without getting canceled.
Because it's not true. Because it's just not true. It's not true. George Washington was not a father figure to his slaves.
Well, if you look up, like, I think it was Booker
47. Let's see, 47 of George Washington's slaves tried to escape. Would you try to escape if you loved your master?
maybe that one was wrong. I don't know. This was like a little bit on a podcast months ago.
See, the problem is with people like her, they take a very small piece of information. They take the thing that suits whatever argument they're trying to make, and they will ignore every other piece of fact about it, and then just focus on this little minute detail, right? And it skews without context of everything. It might look like, oh my God, like, man, if you look at this little piece of fact that a lot of his slaves didn't say anything bad about him. If you just look at that fact, everything was hunky-dory in slave land. Slavery land was perfectly fine. Everybody was treated as equals, and things were, people were fed, and no lashings were handed out. Like, what is wrong with people?
Oh, I don't really remember, but
then stop saying bullshit.
Sure if it was Washington either in that interview at some point, but
George Washington
what I'm bringing up is I'm not even allowed to have this conversation.
No, you're not. It's not that you're not allowed to have the conversation. You just can't be saying stupid shit about the conversation. You can't be saying shit like slavery wasn't bad. That's stupid. That's a very stupid thing for a human being to say. That's a very stupid thing. Even if it wasn't the black people that were enslaved, to say slavery wasn't bad is a stupid thing for a human being, a grown adult, to say. Let's just be honest about that.
That, but I mean,
the issue is not that you can't have this conversation. It's just that because it's such a sensitive topic, you have no idea how to cut through it efficiently. You're just going at it with a fucking paddle, and you're wondering why the meat coming out all crazy. And you trying to serve it to people, and people be like, I didn't ask for a smashed raw burger. Yeah, people won't have an issue. They're going to complain. If you want to take on the difficult stuff, that's fine. Do your due diligence. When you were on that fucking podcast with Nick, you didn't.
There was no, yeah.
Some white supremacists come up and
talk
about how black people are inferior and how slavery isn't a big deal. That's your problem. If I'm gonna tackle a big subject like that, like in a
bro, you gotta do research.
You best believe I'm gonna do it properly. There's been plenty of times people are like, I have a talk about Palestine. I don't know shit about it, so I ain't gonna jump on it. And I wouldn't be surprised if I'm like, hey man, Palestinians this or that, and folks got mad.
No, either side you're gonna put.
Yeah, no matter what side. Like you can't just say, like, that's the thing. It's like the problem is when you are married, like I said, you're married to these crazy, stupid ass ideologies, and you have to follow the doctrine. You can't buck the orthodoxy. You can't do anything different. You have to toe the line of whatever Rollo Tomasi or Andrew Tate or the fresh and fit guys, or whatever they're peddling, whatever the new mantra is for the red pill people, like whatever that is, they all have to peddle that and believe the same thing, or the audience turns on you and says you've been you're now a beta or something like that. So I think it's like super interesting that this is where she's going with it, and she tries to pretend like she's the only person trying to have like the real conversations. You want to have real conversations? You want to have real conversations? Let's talk about the maimings, the killings, right? The journeys on the ships. Like, let's talk. If you want to really talk about it, like the problem is you want to go surface level. You want to find little shit eating fucking factoids that serve your argument. That's all you want to do. You don't want to actually look at the facts, what actually happened. You want to find little anecdotal facts that say, oh, look. This guy likes George Washington and he was a slave. So apparently slavery wasn't that bad. Like that, your logic doesn't compute, and you're going to look stupid because people are just going to be like, here's a fact, here's a fact, here's another fact, here's another fact, here's the situation, here's more context, here's more context. And you're going to be there trying to defend a position that doesn't even make any sense. Like the positions that she's trying to defend just don't. You cannot say on this planet where we know what slavery is. It's not like somebody accidentally changed the word slavery to mean ice cream or some shit. Like, did I wake up on another planet where slavery meant ice cream? And every time somebody said slavery, you're just getting like ice cream? I don't know. I'm confused. I'm so confused.
On fucking Joe Biden, and then he starts rattling off about democratic policy.
Marriage is supposed to be, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, and
that's a part of the vow. That's a part of the vow.
Like I said, she takes just little pieces, and she doesn't take the entire thing. Like she never like. That's the problem with a lot of these red pill arguments, is they don't look through everything with an entire look. They don't look from start to finish. They don't truly analyze anything. They find something that supports their narrative, supports their argument, and they run with that, just that little bit, right? When in reality, in life, you've got to look at everything, right? Data is only important in the context if you use it with other pieces of data. Right? Data by itself could tell you anything you want to hear, right? Like any little piece of factoid you could come to any stupid conclusion that you want without other context. But if you put other context around it, it helps you understand what you're talking about much more efficiently. And this video has gone obviously way too long, but I just think sometimes these conversations are crazy that she has. And it's like,
well, you
It's
know,
just not true.
I've talked to hundreds of women.
Hundreds of women. Yeah, she probably has talked to hundreds of women.
Power and the risk for abuse and for people to get stuck in a horrible relationship situation, not just for them but their kids, right? I mean, obviously, having your kids watch their mother get beat up, and oftentimes it's going to bleed.
Or the kids get watching their father get beat up. Like, it goes both ways.
Okay, yeah.
And I
And
acknowledge
so
that
he
it goes
shouldn't
both
leave?
ways. So both people have a right to, in my opinion, get divorced, because the alternative is one of the partners being stuck and like
Do you think that's
potentially
the
a lethal
majority?
situation.
Do you think that's the majority of cases
A majority of cases of what? Divorce?
of divorce? Do you think the majority
25%.
is
25%.
What?
It's 25% based on statistics.
No, but that's not. No, that's not what's in criminal court. It's like less than 10%. It actually followed through in criminal court.
Well,
So you-
regardless,
okay.
it's enough, don't you think?
No, I said less than 10% of the abuse cases of the 25%. So that's like.
Okay, so 25% go to court and less than 10% make it. The fact that 25% of marriages talk about that there's violence, right? Even if it doesn't go through, right? When they've documented that there is violence in the relationship, you don't think that's an issue, right? You don't think that's an issue that if you're saying that it's only less than, so isn't what you're saying already happening where a lot of these people are going back to that situation anyway, right? Isn't that what you're saying? That they should just tough it out? Yeah. If less than 10% of the 25% already for marriages only do it, then what you're saying is already happening. So you don't even have a gripe for real. You just want to hear yourself talk, and it's stupid.
Family violence in 2014 found that approximately 25% of divorces in the United States involve domestic violence.
Right, but again, that's because the woman says that she was, because they're incentive.
But you're just saying stuff.
Like I said, she just says stuff. She doesn't know anything.
No, I do.
How?
I do. Like, okay, in the UK, there's a law that you get a free lawyer if
How does that?
What does that?
Prove that women are lying about violence?
No, because I'm saying that you can't. Okay, you can't prove it unless they go to criminal court, because criminal court is based off of evidence, where family court is based off of a balance of probabilities.
Which is also evidence. You can't just say your partner beats you without evidence. She's just saying the same shit. This girl's fucking stupid. I
think that's what I've ultimately come to, is like, she just doesn't know what she's talking about half the time, and she doesn't do the adequate research to debate in any of these topics actually really well. Like I don't do that much research, and I know that some of the stuff she says just on plain face value. Some of the things she says just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. Some of the advice, it's practically, in reality, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't even sound like something a real person would say. It just sounds like something a tough guy in like a TV show would say, like somebody who's like trying to be like a macho man on a TV show would say, like the things she says. It's like, that's not reality.
You can't go to family court, say your partner beats you, and then they just believe it. That's not how it works. They have to have some evidence.
She's not dumb. She has 3 cassettes. And she's just playing the same one she played before.
Yo, it goes in reverse. Like, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
She doesn't.
She just rewinded.
Someone of abuse.
Yeah, she just gets.
I'm saying there's no, you can't. They only prove it in less than 10% of cases.
Okay.
In criminal court, because criminal court is based off of evidence. Family court is not.
She just keeps saying that, bro.
Man.
She just keeps saying that, and it's just not true.
She's not dumb.
When dads win cases to get custody of their children, they're doing it based off evidence. They have to show evidence that the mother is sick or whatever. The same can be said the other way around. They're saying the father's a deadbeat. They got to show he didn't pay his payments. They got to show written receipts. Like, it's just stupid.
So
exactly.
Less than 10%. I'll just give you the benefit of the doubt on that. Still seems like enough to give people the option to
For
leave.
real.
And this idea that women just leave whenever they want seems a little bit infantile, because people change, right? Especially when people get married young, which does happen. People change. People go through shit. People grow apart.
It's like almost even been watching her videos. Shout outs to you, brother. You getting the right arguments in. Let's see what happens. Congratulations.
Yeah, and like that's. I mean, I'm gonna leave the video there. I'm not gonna finish it out, just because she's just gonna say the same thing over and over, like, and I'm not gonna let y'all go through one more of that. Yeah, you can tell that she has very little real life experience with like marriage and, you know, things like that in relationships, because she wouldn't say some of the relationship things she says. You can tell she has no real, you know, knowledge of slavery and the black experience and the black culture. So I don't think she should be speaking on it to begin with. And I'm African, and my understanding of the African American plight in this country isn't that vast and knowledgeable, but I know it's way more than this goddamn freaking joker. Like she doesn't know what she's talking about. And if anybody follows this lady and thinks the things that she says about black people are correct, if you think that just because Thomas Sowell said something in a fucking book that makes it correct, then you need to read more books, right? Like if you're gonna read Thomas Sowell, you got to read other books too. You got to read some stuff by Cornel West. You got to, you know, like you got to expand your knowledge base, and don't just take one person's view as law. Right? Like that's the problem a lot of the times is you read one thing, like the guy who reads, you know, beware of the guy who read Art of War, because, you know, like that's like one of the things, like, or the guy who just read 38 Laws of Power or something like that. Like there are people who they get one little book, one little idea, and that's it, right? When your worldview should be based on multiple ideas, differing ideas, to understand what's going on, to get a better picture. But for these people, what's more important is clicks, click-through rate, likes, impressions, and things like that. What's going to get the most sensationalized? What's going to get clipped up? What's going to get, you know, because she knows the things she's saying are going to get the traction that she needs. You can tell that she feels uneasy saying it, and she knows that she shouldn't be saying it because the things she's saying are quite stupid, in all honesty. But she knows that, oh man, well, this is going to go viral. Like you can tell that she knows that it's about to go. People are about to clip it up. People are about to talk about her. So, you know, I honestly believe that's why she does those things. And yeah, it's interesting that, you know, she still has such a huge platform to do this, and you know, people are still rocking with her. So people try to say like, oh, nobody really gets canceled. I don't know who's gotten canceled. Everybody says they get canceled, but they still doing shows. They still on their TV. Like they're like, all these people. They said they canceled Alex Jones. I see more Alex Jones clips than I used to before he was canceled. Like I think it's crazy. They canceled Andrew Tate. I see more Andrew Tate than I ever had. Right? So like, I don't know who's canceling these people, but you're doing a very, very bad job. You're doing a bad job at canceling these people. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Y'all ain't doing it. Y'all ain't finishing it. All right, because these people are getting very uncanceled and very fast. All right. Like I said, it's that's my conclusion. It's your boy Ty. It's Contentious Conversations, and I am signing out.